Okay, let's see if I can screen share this. Applications. Can y'all see this? It's about a lot of slides. So we'll get them when we get there. But yeah, it'll mainly be going over what is YouTube, how to win the game of YouTube, specifically ideation, how to tell ideas are bad. It's something that a lot of you guys probably don't focus on, or even like consider, is that when coming up with ideas like, oh, this is a bad idea, you guys just like let it rip. I even have clients like myself that will be like, hey, I want to do this idea, and we're like, no, it's a terrible idea. And most of the times it is terrible. We have some ways to kind of delineate what is a bad idea. And then at the end, I've got like 2 secret methods of coming up with ideas that you guys can use specifically, to get a lot of views. I'm not gonna say like they're massively secret, but it is worth staying all the way to the end for, just because no one really talks about it on Twitter, at all. So let's kind of get into it, and hopefully you guys can't see my cheat sheet of notes on the other screen. That'd be bad. And, yeah, we can start. So what is YouTube? So YouTube effectively is one thing, and that is an attention marketplace, right? So everyone that is uploading on YouTube is trying to do one of 2 things, or actually just one of 2 things, specifically getting views is the main thing, or making money. Now, how do we do that specifically? Like, how do we win the game of YouTube if we know it's an attention marketplace? Because every time you open up your homepage, you're going to see nothing but like 100 videos straight up. And it's like, they're all basically saying, watch me in some way, shape, or form, whether that be through the title, the thumbnail, the idea, the market. That's the main idea that they're focusing on. So how do we win? It's pretty easy. There's 2 main ways to win on YouTube. There's arguably more, but we're not going to get into like the semantics of that. The 2 main ways are through entertainment content and through education. So if you run, let's say, a faceless channel like Internet Anarchist, it's going to be way more through entertainment. Sometimes a little bit of education, but it's more so entertainment. If you are running a, let's say, woodworking channel, it's usually going to be education, right? Educating the audience on how to do XYZ thing. Sometimes it could be entertainment, but that's the main 2 ways of going about doing it. So, hold on, I gotta go get my notes. Now, once we have figured out kind of like what we want to do, in most of the cases, if you guys are doing faceless content / automated content, a lot of the time that what you're going to be doing is going to be entertainment-based content, because that's what's working in the market. That's also arguably like the easiest content to get into, because you don't need to necessarily have a massive knowledge base to be like, oh, I want to make an entertaining piece of content about XYZ. Whereas if you were doing education-based content, you do need to be able to have like at least a good enough understanding to explain a topic or subject to an audience. And if you can't do that, it doesn't make sense to do education-based content. Also, education-based content has this other issue where you're always going to have a viewership churn, because once they get educated on said thing, they usually leave and go on and graduate elsewhere, to either learn from someone else or to do something differently. So that is where ideation comes into play, and how we can kind of effectively insulate ourselves a little bit from both education and entertainment kind of audiences, from A, churning, B, over time, kind of like just leaving, and making boring content. And that's through ideation, which is what I think is arguably like the most important thing on YouTube. Outside of ideation, it then becomes like packaging. So how you package your ideas, that's going to be your titles. That's going to be your thumbnails. That's going to also include the first 30 seconds of the video, because when you autoplay a video on YouTube, or if you're on mobile or whatever, videos autoplay the first 30 seconds of those videos, so you can see what the video is about. So you want to make sure that reinforces the title and thumbnail. After that, it's going to be the story and the actual storytelling of the video. And then from there, it's going to be the retention that you use to get there. I prefer storytelling over retention, just because the storytelling is what people are going to walk away with. The retention is the subtle things that you do within the story to keep people hooked. Now, let's talk about how to come up with ideas. There's one main way to come up with ideas: outlier ideation. There's a bunch of ways, and there's probably a bunch of ways that you guys are doing it, but this is the best one. So what outliers are there videos on YouTube that overperform, someone say, the channel's average. I would prefer the viewing moving average. So I look at let's say 5 videos on a channel, and I look at the outlier of that 5 video moving average, the 5 videos before that video, the 5 videos after that video, to get a more comprehensive score. This is what we do at 1 of 10. Hey, get the tool if you don't already have it. It's pretty good. And that is what we focus on. The reason why we focus on that is because it gives you more relevant data. If you do outlier scores like vidIQ or NextLev against the channel average, it's actually pretty bad. And the reason why is that as the channel grows, the outliers don't grow proportional with it. That's number one. And early on, outliers are going to be disproportionately more of an outlier because there's less of an audience. So I don't necessarily think it's a good metric to go about. I cannot full screen the presentation because I lose my cheat sheet. sadly. I wish. I need my cheat sheet because it's a lot of words. So yeah, when it comes to outliers, there's usually one of three ways or one of three reasons the video is an outlier. That's going to be the idea. That's going to be the most prominent one. That's going to be the most applicable one that you can basically take, right? It's going to be the easiest one for you to twist into your own way. So for example, I'll keep using, let's say, the more video essay / drama niches. So like if you look at, let's say, Sunnyv2 again, he'll make a video about someone, and then there'll be a video from, let's say, Ryan Pictures, who's like, streamers who fell off, right? Or every streamer who's like crashed out. That's like an example. And then Sunny's video would be like, Johnny Smalley's crashing out, right? Like that would be the idea. Or most loved versus most hated streamers. So like that's how he's effectively taking one idea and then modifying it in his own way in his own kind of presentation. Next up, the reason why a video is an outliers packaging. This is a little bit more advanced. So let's say you have a bunch of different videos and a bunch of different niches. What you'll want to be focusing on is there a commonality between all of the thumbnails, right? So for example, if you look at, let's say, there's a great video that was uploaded probably about 9 months ago, which is trying every legal addiction. Maybe you guys have seen it, maybe you guys have not seen it. But it's basically like a guy, he's laying on his bed and he has like all like the legal addictions around like his head. We did that same thing for Will Tennyson and did 5 million views, but I also recently did it for another client in different spaces, and they've all done well. And it's less so about the title in this case, but more so about like the thumbnail. It's just a very good thumbnail, in addition to the title, of course. But yeah, finding outlier packaging, a great example, actually probably the best example of outlier packaging is like the Vexian style thumbnails, which I'm sure you guys have seen, or the Colin Samir style thumbnails with the text being the main reason people are clicking. It's transferable to every niche, education, entertainment, depending on how you go, split it like positive angles, negative angles. It's all very good. And then lastly, another reason why a video can be an outlier is viewer satisfaction. Viewer satisfaction, I like just calling it viewer satisfaction. It's the easiest thing to call it. Because really it's kind of like an amalgamation of storytelling, retention, length of videos, etc. So for example, if you have a bunch of videos that are doing incredibly well, that are like an hour long, that in itself could probably be a data point that it's an outlier because it's an hour long, right? The length of the video. And usually I can boil that down to session time percentage, but I usually just call it viewer satisfaction. Same thing with storytelling. If you see someone who has a really good storytelling format in one niche, you should try to apply that same storytelling format to another niche. Again, a lot of the guys that do the like faceless like dramas content, like Vine Pictures, you can take that same storytelling component and transfer it to another niche. I've seen this done a ton in Minecraft, where it's like the same storytelling as Ryan V Pictures, but in Minecraft, right? And it's not even the same ideas. So how do we come up with really good ideas based on outliers and the reason why they're outliers? This is the general matrix I use for that. I'll have a live example after this. It'll take a second to set up. But you have direct competitors. So direct competitors are going to be the guys that are in the exact same niche as you in the same attention market. So being in the same niche and attention market are different things. They're also going to be the same style as you. So let's say in this case, the niche is Roblox, right? Okay. You're a Roblox creator. But in the attention market of Roblox, you have a lot of sub-niches of Roblox or attention markets. So in this case, we'll talk about Bloxfruits because I have a client who's a Bloxfruits YouTuber. And then you do the same style. So my client in Bloxfruits, for example, does like really long form videos, like an hour plus. They're really difficult to do. And there's a dozen guys who do the same stuff. So in that case, those are my direct competitors. I can look at my direct competitors' outliers and to see if there's any gaps in the market that they're exploiting in the first two. That's number one. Or if there's anything they're doing that we're not doing that we can increase the view floor on. That's going to be your direct competitors. Your indirect competitors are going to be same niche, same attention market, different style. So this would be Roblox, Bloxfruits, but they're making educational content and how-tos. Not something that is drastically useful for me, but I can be able to look at some of their content and be like, oh, there's a trend here. Like content talking about how to get the best combos is good. Maybe as my creator in the, let's say, Roblox niche, I should do a video testing the best combos, right? Because I can see that as well. Adjacent competitors are going to be probably your bread and butter for coming up with banger ideas. These guys in different niches, but same attention markets. So how this works out is you want to really kind of focus on the psychographic profile of the audience that you're targeting here. So in Roblox, instead of doing, let's say, Bloxfruits, I'd look at the Strongest Battlegrounds as an example. And I'd see what's going on in the Strongest Battlegrounds as a same or a similar style to the content I'm trying to make and the audience I'm trying to reach. And by doing that, I can come up with straight bangers. And I know this because I've done it. That's how I got my gold plaque right there for my Roblox client. This is the exact methodology I use, so I know it works. And then lastly, you have distant competitors. So this is what I use for people like Will Tennyson, Matthew Beam, etc. All like the massive clients, Mike Shake even, is I look at different niches. I look at the same attention markets and different styles. And this is a little bit complex, and I don't recommend anyone do this. If you are, like, let's say new to coming up with ideas or looking for bangers, because it's the most convoluted one. It's also the most difficult one. So when focusing on different niches, let's say I'll use Will Tennyson, for example, in this case, because it makes the most sense. Will does a lot of fitness-based content. So the first thing that I look for in a different niche is, okay, not fitness-based content, number one. I might look at travel-based content. I might look at, funny enough, gambling content, which will make sense for a future video. I might look at all of these, like, really, really wildly different niches, as well as the same attention market. So again, same, like, let's say viewer psychographic profile, but different styles to see if there's any really, really good videos. A great example, and I'm not going to leak anything here, but there was a video by a like gaming YouTuber to different niche, different style, and he did a video which was gaming on every plane seat, and it did like, I don't know, I think maybe like 19 million views, like massive outlier for him. And we're adapting that in some way, shape, or form for Will and fitness. So that's looking at a distant competitor, different niche, but it's the same attention market. And that's what you want to focus on here, is making sure that anytime that you inspire ideas, they're from the same attention market, because it's a great way to auto-qualify the idea. If I come from, let's say, or if I'm looking for, you know, an idea I'm doing, and it's not the same attention market, and it's an attention market for, let's say, 50 to 60-year-olds in that audience, it doesn't make sense, really, to come up with that idea for an audience that's 20-year-olds. So that is how we do it: direct competitors, indirect competitors, distant competitors, adjacent competitors as inspiration. And I can potentially show a live example. Here we go. All right, we're back. Look at that. That was painless. Yeah, so this is how we would do it. Let's say, hypothetically, I had an American football channel. If I had that, I would first look at my direct competition in the American football space. And in this case, we're doing like a video essay channel, like a story channel, the ones that are like really popping off right now. Right? So like I could see, like, let's say Kurtz Productions has like a lot of really banger formats, like how good was 2007 Tom Brady, the rise and fall again of Bryce. You'll never look at AJ Brown the same way, right? I can look at these as direct competitors, and if I was in this space, I could be like, oh, maybe there's a gap here, maybe there's a player he didn't do. Blitz has actually a great one, which is meet the smartest NFL player. If I click on this video, please don't take me to the actual video. It took me to the actual video. That's fine. Yeah, meet the smartest player in NFL history. Like, if I go back and I look at the thumbnail's a great thumbnail, but it's directly inspired by, if I go to indirect competitors and I go Out of Bound, channel ran by some of my friends, Leander Hopkins. Like, these thumbnails, 100% directly inspired this specific Blitz thumbnail from a month ago. I know that because they were not doing that previously, like, at all. So, like, that's a great example of, let's say, using your adjacent competitors in a different niche, but same attention market. From the NBA to the NFL, and using that outlier to come up with that. And it's one of their best videos recently. 1 million views compared to a few 100,000. So that's how I would do it. I'd probably look at, like, let's say, directly other football creators to see, like, okay, are there any formats that I like a lot that would fit players that I could make content around? And if not, I would look at, let's say, indirect competitors here. So I'd like the sports indirect. So I'd be looking at, like, let's say, European football or soccer in this case. Or American basketball, both massively popular attention markets, same viewer psychographic profile. I can target that to come up with ideas, and that's exactly how we do it. So, back to the presentation. Can we see the presentation? Oh, we can. Perfect. That's a live example. Now, how do I know this works? This is the same methodology I use to get 250 million views a month, maybe 300 on a good month. As you can see up here, pretty sure, like Mike Shake I've worked with, Will Tennyson, and Matthew Beam. But what if the idea is bad? This is something that a lot of people don't talk about. It is probably, I'm not going to say like the biggest secret in the industry, but it's like what separates like really great creators from really bad creators. Is like the guys that have like consistently high hit rates are doing so not because they come up with a bunch of great ideas. They probably only come up with great ideas 20% of the time. It's the other 80% of the time they're coming up with bad ideas they get rid of. And eventually get to the point where it's like you come up with only decent ideas, but it's not truly great ideas. And you have to figure out how to make them great. So this is talking about how ideas can be bad, and how using outlier ideation, as good as it is, has its own pitfalls. And there's 4 reasons why outlier ideation fails, and there's things to be wary of. So let me go here to how I tell if ideas are bad. So hey, look, it's an outlier. It could be bad. Actually, in most cases, I'm not gonna say most cases, but in some cases, outliers can be bad, like really bad. So the first reason why it doesn't make sense is the audience isn't a good fit for the outlier. So let's say you are a soccer channel, right? And you are a soccer video essay channel, for example, right? And you're doing video essays about players, just something like I showed recently, like Same thing for football players or basketball players, but you're doing it for soccer players exactly like out of bounds. I don't know, you call it like some soccer terminology, right? And then you see a bunch of these banger videos in the soccer niche specifically talking about, 101 goals you have to see to believe, right? Or Messi goals, but they get increasingly farther, right? Things like that. Now, these are massive outliers, incredibly good outliers, but there's not a single way that you can adapt that to your channel. And you can try to adapt that to your channel and it'll fail. Actually, if you go back to Blitz, this is funny enough, like a pretty good example, is that Blitz had this breakout video, meet the smartest player in NFL history, right? And then they're doing top 10 fastest players in the NFL, top 10 number one draft picks, which were more listicle type videos. These videos are doing bad. Are these videos bad ideas? I actually don't think so. If you had a channel focused purely around listicle content, it actually makes a lot of sense because there's an audience match. The thing here is there's an audience mismatch because they were previously doing tons and tons of these kind of like video essay content and storytelling content, like tons. And now they're doing like more listicle based content and it doesn't make sense anymore for the audience profile and the attention market. So they've kind of like shot themselves in the foot a little bit here. So that is something to be wary of. And that is one way that outliers can be bad, where I'm sure those videos are outlier data backed, but they're posting them in such a way that it doesn't make sense anymore for the audience. So in that case, it's an audience mismatch. The next reason outliers can be bad is they're uniquely advantaged outliers. So this is something that Leroy Turbach talks about a lot on Twitter. He's a good friend of mine and a strategist. And he talks about how, some creators have unique advantages, right? If you look at Daniel Baton, he's like 17-year-old, like multimillionaire, right? That's his unique advantage. He can lean into that in terms of storytelling, in terms of ideas, in terms of packaging, right? So if you see his video talking about that and talking about like, how to make money for teenagers, and you made that video, but you're like 22 or 23, you're immediately going to lose no matter what your information is because he's uniquely advantaged for that market and to take advantage of that specific market. So when looking at outliers, you have to ask yourself, okay, does it make sense for my audience? And is it something that I can also do? Is it something that the person who made that content and got that outlier originally have a unique advantage over everyone else? And that is something that you have to like really think about. So again, like for gaming content, here's a great example. Let's say there is a game that has in-game ranks, right? Like the highest rank is like, let's just call it Grandmaster, right? And you make content as a Grandmaster that's like, gameplay oriented content. Your content, just by the fact that the merit is from a high quality player, is going to almost always do better than gameplay content from anyone that's a lower rank than you because you're uniquely advantaged to post that content. So it would be very bad if you took that outlier from that guy's channel and tried to apply it to your channel with your gold. Doesn't work. Next up is momentum-based outliers. Momentum-based outliers are incredibly deadly. So there is kind of a concept I talked about, which is called trickle-down viewnomics. So what'll happen, and this is just fundamentally how YouTube works, is let's say I post a banger video and it gets, let's say 3 million views, right? But my average before this is 300,000 views, right? So I get a 10x outlier here, right? Pretty sick. I'm hyped. My next video, regardless of where it is, 9 times out of 10 will always do better than 2 videos ago, which is the 300,000 view average video. Because YouTube served you so many impressions and there was such a massive new audience on your channel that you're looking at that second video. That second video is going to also get pushed. At least some percentage of the initial audiences from the outlier is going to get pushed to that second video. So if I upload a 3 million video, my next video might be 700,000, which is still a 2.5x outlier. But if I, let's say, base my idea off that 2.5x outlier, it actually might be a bad outlier because it's a momentum-based outlier. It's not an outlier on its own merit. It's an outlier purely because there was momentum behind it. So that's something to kind of like, let's say, think about. It's like really bad actually. And this is something that I've made the mistake of as well, where I find like a momentum-based outlier. I'm like, this is sick. We gotta do it. And it doesn't work because it's a momentum-based outlier. It's not even an outlier for the channel when I apply it. So yeah, it does happen even to someone like me. Now, there is a silver lining to this. Sometimes momentum-based outliers are actually outliers. They're actually outliers. They're just taking advantage of the momentum. And that's a strategy people can do. It's a strategy I've done where I get an outlier and I post another video that I know is going to be an outlier right after, and I use that momentum to front run those impressions, and I can just easily get more views. But in order to do that, you have to look at a momentum-based outlier and go back all the way to like the adjacent niches thing and see if there's any other similar outliers in adjacent niches. So you can cross-reference it and be like, okay, I'm building a case for myself that, hey, this video I'm posting based on this data isn't just a one-off data due to momentum. There is a pattern here. It just happened to be a momentum-based outlier, but there's also other pieces of content that back it up. And then the fourth way that outliers might be bad, and something you need to think of, are what I call deadman outliers. So let's say you are, and we'll just do video gaming essay content because this is a niche I know, because I have a channel here, is let's say you have a video, right? And it is about, let's say, a racing game. And it does, you see, it's like a 70x outlier, a massive outlier from a tiny channel. But then you see that same game in video essay format covered by 5 other channels, and they're all massively underperformers. That's a dead man outlier where one video succeeded and one video was massively successful, but every other video on the concept is really bad. So like an inverse example of this is like anytime that you see like let's say a Dark Souls video essay in the gaming space, they almost always do well. That's not a dead man outlier. But if you did, let's say, a Lies of P video essay, and there's only one Lies of P video essay, which is a Souls-like content, it's an adjacent audience, and that does really well, but all of the other ones do fairly poorly, it's a dead man outlier. And that could be due to first mover advantage, that could just be to the fact that it was like super advanced storytelling, it could be 1,000 different things, but at the end of the day, if you have a piece of content you want to do about like a topic or subject, and there's only one outlier for that, and 5 videos that are, let's say, not outliers, it's a dead man outlier. I'd be very, 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 very cautious. Now, moving on to the next section. We've got the secret methods on how I come up with ideas. We got some banger secret methods here. So let me go. I might be able to, I'll full screen this one. So if you guys want me to full screen, because I have all the notes here, let me do that. Oh, wait, hold on. I think I can do slideshow. Look at that. Boom. All right, so when it comes to secret methods, one of my favorite ones is called inverse normatives. Inverse normatives is essentially that what you're going to be doing is, I'm going to show you, you're going to take, like, let's say, a preconceived notion from an audience or something that is like a baseline belief, right? So, for example, most people know that Pluto's not a planet now, right? But if you make a video opposing that, like, let's say, or the framing opposing that, so, like, you're wrong about Pluto, it's like, okay, well, how am I wrong about Pluto? I think I know everything about Pluto. not a massive thing to know about, right? You're inversing the normative, right? Or the preconceived notion. Same thing for, actually one of my clients, Michael Diamonds, stop walking 10K steps a day to lose belly fat. It is like pretty common knowledge, or even like prescribed knowledge, in some cases from, let's say, doctors, where it's like, walking 10,000 steps a day, loses fat. But in this video, we're like, okay, well, don't do that. Do this instead. It's like, okay, what is it? It's actually walking 15,000 steps. You get better results. Who would have thought? But by inversing the normative belief, or creating a juxtaposition against it, you create a curiosity gap that has to get closed. The people who believe that belief want to have their belief reinforced, so they want to watch your video to disprove it. And the people who also believe that belief want to watch that video in the first place because, let's say, maybe they are wrong, right? Humans fundamentally want to be right. So they want to watch it to either prove themselves right or want to watch it to make sure they're not wrong. Both those reasons apply when you're doing the inverse normatives. A great example of inverse normatives, by the way, is juxtaposition. So like finding like a hard thing and saying like, this is easy, which we'll get to in like 2 seconds. Another great one is how to be miserable for the rest of your life. This is more of like, let's say a high level meta type thing where it's like, a better video is like, how to be happy for the rest of your life. But by framing it as how to be miserable for the rest of your life, it's like, these are the things to do to become miserable for the rest of your life, which no one wants. You're going to click on that video to see how not to be miserable, right? So he's using that, let's say, preconceived notion against you. And it gets you to click, and it's 6.6 million views. He's great. Actually, Better Ideas is one of the best in the world at specifically this kind of format. And lastly, is Becoming Smart is easy, actually. That's a juxtaposition where Becoming Smart is like usually something that's like kind of lauded on a pedestal, especially if you are in school, right? It's all about academia and academics. So Becoming Smart is easy, actually, is like really great because it's like one of those things where it can be somewhat challenging. Just by framing it is, hey, it's easy, actually. That breaks a preconceived notion, and then you're interested in just a good juxtaposition. Next up, that was inverse normatives. That's what I do. So, hey, figure it out. It's pretty good. Next is presence mind. This is my own school of thought, number one. So this is the type of content I like making the most for clients. It is incredibly good. I think it's generated me close to 1 billion views in itself. It's like 900 million of its own. It's what I've specifically used for Couch Co-op in the past. It's what I've specifically used for massive clients like Matthew Beam, like Mike Shake. So I know it works. So let's talk about presence of mind. Presence of mind is essentially any idea, subject matter, topic, person, place, event, thing that is relevant in the zeitgeist. And what I mean the zeitgeist is I'm not gonna say like the domain of public opinion, but it's like the domain of public consciousness. So for example, if you made a Minecraft video right now, because there's so much hype around the Minecraft movie, you get a lot of views. A great guy, or a great YouTuber, there's like 20,000 subs in a video, which was every mod in the Minecraft movie, right? And like, yeah, the Minecraft movie is not actually all of it now. Here's some of the mods in the movie. But because the movie was like just banging in terms of like on social media, in terms of like word of mouth, in terms of all this, you have a massive like presence of mind period of time during the event, during like the peak of attention. So he made that video and it garnered 1 million views, which is a massive outlier for that guy. The same thing would be heard for, let's say, the Diddy trial stuff and like the Amber Heard trial stuff back in the day, where it's like because it's talked about so much as like, first of all, like celebrities are present in mind all the time because there's some weight their name caches in your brain, like subconsciously or consciously. And because of that, like, and the events going on and they're being like highly publicized, that is presence of mind for a lot of people. So we're going to take a look at a small little section of presence of mind ideation because it's actually massive. It's a whole school of thought I'm building out. And hopefully maybe one day I'll actually have like a full thing, a full like paper about it. And that's sentiment analysis. Sentiment analysis is probably like, let's say, one of the more difficult ways to do presence of mind content. So essentially what you're doing here is you're measuring a sentiment of a population based on a thing, which is really boring. But in this case, these are two videos that both use sentiment analysis to come up with the idea based on presence of mind. So the first one is every game is a hero shooter now, it sucks. There is no data for this. There is no outlier data for this. This is like the first one. And maybe if I go to the next page, do we talk about it? No, we don't talk about it. Okay, so I got a free ball out here. So yeah, essentially the way that I came up with this video is at the specific time, Concord, I don't know if you guys remember that game. Hopefully not. It flopped, right? A lot of negative press, like $300 million to develop this game, and it did really, really bad. And it was a hero shooter. It was like Overwatch. During this time, or I guess like prior to it, Overwatch 2 had come out, and guess what? Overwatch 2 sucked. Massive debacle there in itself, where they basically gutted the game, they gutted all the promises they made on what they were going to do for Overwatch 2, and it sucked. Outside of that, Deadlock had also just recently released around the time of posting this video, which was another hero type shooter. It was like a hero shooter MOBA. The genre of the game doesn't matter. There are heroes have specific roles. And the general sentiment from the population, not on YouTube, no one on YouTube was making videos like hero shooters suck. But it was like on Twitter, it was on Reddit, it was on YouTube comments, about the videos from these specific games, like, I wish Deadlock wasn't a hero shooter, right? The general sentiment from the community was overtly negative. And because of that, I was able to, just like take an aggregate of what's being said on Twitter, what's being said on Reddit, what's being said on other forums, what's being said on other comment sections. And I can put together a pretty good case that there's a lot of negative sentiment around this specific topic, and it's present in mind. It's a pain point for a lot of people currently, subconsciously or consciously. They're tired of hero shooters. So we created a video that basically was more or less a lightning rod of attention for this specific audience, and talked about a lot of what they were feeling. And it's the first video to do that, right? Which was every game is a hero shooter now and it sucks. And it did really well. It's a 12.4x outlier. So that was sampling sentiment from other platforms. That's not looking at YouTube for data. That's looking outside of YouTube for data, and decent enough data points where I can say there's a population here that has a feeling about a thing, and I can make a video that expresses that feeling about that thing before anyone else does. And that's what we did, sentiment analysis. The other one is racing games have crashed and burned. This is another version of sentiment analysis. It's still fundamentally the same system I'm using. I'm just using it on YouTube this time instead of other forms. So, as you can see here, hey, this is all the data I used, for this video. So racing games have crashed and burned. So first of all, me and my partner, like racing games. We like gaming, like making gaming videos on this channel. This bang, so I originally saw one of Microsoft's best games is Extinct. I watched this. It's I think it's the original Forza. This was a year ago. It is from a tiny channel, like sub 20,000 subs, 110x outlier. And I was like, okay, that's like pretty cool. Like, there's a racing game audience. And then I watched that video, and then this guy's channel got recommended to me where it's like, the decline of racing games from 2 years ago, 1.6, the fall of Forza Horizon, 1.1 million, the downfall of Forza Motorsport, that did 400,000, the greatest franchise Rockstar band. I'm like, this guy's cooking. This guy's just doing nothing but cooking. And then, again, this guy is another tiny channel. This is 10 months ago, which is Racing Games Suck Now. And then, this guy posts like a lot of content about racing games, but not all of it is outliers, but some of it is outliers. And the ones that are outliers tend to be, hold on, give me 1 second, tend to be negative angles. Sorry about that. I had to go talk to my mom. But yeah, so that is how we do it. And that is how we kind of focus on that. So we were able to kind of like stitch together like the fact that like the throughput of all the outlier videos is specifically like a negative angle / negative storytelling. Not so much about making it about a specific game, but like the genre. So we did our own version, which is Racing Games Have Crashed and Burned. I like just kind of doing this cheeky thing where I focus on like the iconography of like what's actually going on in the video. and talking exclusively about like, hey, like racing games, cars crash and burn in racing games, and just like focusing on that. Yeah, that's how we came up with this. We killed racing games. It's one of our popular kind of copy formats that we use. Like we killed, I think Titanfall, or I think it was EA killed Titanfall, but we originally we killed Titanfall. And then we did that, we applied that, and it did pretty well. 13x outlier, 361,000 views, and like I think the first 100,000 views came in like 2 or 3 days. Now, that would be the end of this presentation. Talking about how to come up with ideas, talking about how to qualify ideas, what YouTube is, how to disqualify ideas, and then like the 2 ways of going about presence of mind ideation, or the 2 ways to do secret ideas. But I was a coconut, and I'm like, well, I told you guys about sentiment analysis, which is like arguably like the end game level of presence of mind ideation, to some degree. And I'm like, well, that doesn't really make sense if I teach you like the end game version of presence of mind ideation. So I decided I'll teach you guys all about presence of mind ideation. So here is, I guess for the first time ever, every single way that you can use presence of mind ideation to come up with ideas. So the first is peaks of interest. The peaks of interest is going to specifically be revolving around events, releases, fast-moving peaks of interest, right? So movie trailers, things like that. So you'll see guys that'll be like breaking down XYZ movie trailer. And while that's great from an informational perspective, the real reason that does well is because without that movie trailer, that video doesn't exist because there's no hype around it. And I'll even take it a step further. Anytime you see a movie, again, we'll use the Minecraft movie for a quick example, like that video banged. But like if you made a video about like, the Snow White movie, like that did not do well, it's just not present in the mind. So it's not an event that's worth doing and it doesn't have a peak of interest. So here again, 2 videos from my gaming channel, Couch Co-op. Gaming will never be the same. So this video we uploaded, at like basically the peak hype for this game called The Finals. It was a free FPS game about like, I think almost 2 years ago now. That focused on destructibility in environments and this and that and that and this. It was really good. So we uploaded this. Will be like, gaming will be the same. And it's the very first video on our channel. Not a pre-age monetized channel, just a channel that we made that day, or that week, and did 186,000 views because it was directly in front of the audience because the peak of the interest was there. Next up, I don't know if you guys remember the Helldivers craze. So we made a video, Helldivers 2 changed the gaming industry forever. Hey, look, it's the same thumbnail. And it did incredibly good. And again, no one had really been making content, so we just rode the peak of interest that was Helldivers, that was blowing up on social media very organically, on YouTube and everything in between. And the way that we did this is we just timed the market, right? People are like, oh, timing the market, please timing the market. On YouTube, you can actually time the market. And it's all psychological. So, hey, we knew there's like a massive peak of interest here, so we focused on that. Another great way, to do peak of interest content is drama content. Drama content also works because it's social hacking, but it's also peak of interest. So anytime there is something that is relevant in the news, first of all, people with big audiences have haters regardless, and they're more than happy to watch those videos. But anytime there's like something that is dramatic in the news, it is a peak of interest, right? Because usually the news will break or something will happen, and people will love watching it. So obviously here's more Pegasus farming, Jimmy for views, is what it is, I suppose. And then another one is my friend WestJet, someone who does the v2 style, my thumbnail style. He uploads a ton of content. So for example, Mark Rober did a video semi-recently, which was crashing a Tesla, into like a wall, or like does like, full autopilot, like XYZ, like stop like a car crash. And Mark Rober did that video. There's some backlash, and WestJet just made a video talking about the backlash. But because it is peak of interest at that specific point in time, it does really well. If you do that video 3 weeks later, it doesn't do that well. We have to do it while the interest is still hot, and that's presence of mind ideation. The drama content specifically does really well, by the way, for its news for the audience, brand new news for the audience, because a lot of the audience is insulated. They're not on Twitter, like most of us. So because of that, they use YouTube as kind of a source of news. Second is discussion board. So people who have already talked about the news or seen the news will use those comment sections for discussion boards. They actually tend to have higher engagement on average than, let's say, a normal video, just because it's a discussion board for the news. And then lastly, it's new perspective. So people who have a perspective or a thought or an idea or an angle about that specific video, will get a new perspective by watching it, hopefully, or potentially watching it for a new perspective. Next up, presence of mind ideation is going to be current events. So this is kind of like peak of interest. But let's say there is an example, for example, I don't know, redundant usage of the word example there, is like current events. So for example, there is tariffs, right? Tariffs, peak of interest was probably the first week of April. But because it's still a current event, it is still something you can make content on, and it's still present in mind because it's still affecting everyone. But outside of that, here's some other example of current events. For example, the Lakers trade, the craziest trade in NBA history, the peak interest for that was the first 24 to 72 hours after that. Jimmy High Roller made a video about a week and a half later, maybe 2 weeks later, talking about the craziest trade in NBA history, which still doesn't feel real, and it did 2 million views. Or actually 2.7 million views, which is a pretty decent outlier for Jimmy, considering his view floor is so high, and it's exponentially more difficult to get higher outliers when the view floor is already pretty high. And lastly, something that was really interesting, again, not so much so peak of interest, but was a current event, is when the Titan sub imploded like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. This guy made this video like a week later or 2 weeks later when specifically going over it. And she did like a 3D model of like, hey, here's how it happened. Here's what went on. Here's how the sub imploded. And it did 16 million views, 12.3x outlier. So pretty good. Next up, presence of mind, nostalgia. Nostalgia is OP. It is subconsciously present in mind rather than consciously present in mind, where everything else was like, this is something that like you see in the news, you hear people talking about. There is some bandwidth taken up consciously by those specific things. And this is nostalgia. So nostalgia is great because it plays on like a subconscious presence of mind. And you see this a lot specifically, actually, I think exclusively with Minecraft content, is probably like the best example I can give. There's like other examples of like, hey, like, do you remember like this thing in this movie? The commentary channels actually do this quite well, whether they think about it or not. So this is from Jay Schlatt. It's a tribute to Minecraft 6 years ago, 6.3 million views. And he basically talked about like how life was better and during older versions of Minecraft. And you just go back and it was like really heavily reliant on, kind of like, not necessarily like baiting nostalgia, but using nostalgia to keep the viewer engaged, right? He'd fade in like certain songs at certain times that like very popular that elicited emotional response, etc. So nostalgia is really good. You can use nostalgia for ideation, by the way. Again, like in the gaming space, let's do Minecraft. But if you are a sports fan, it might make sense to like do something along the lines of like, let's say, nostalgia about a certain era, right? And then if you want to take a step further, you can compare that with inverse normalities, which is like, you know, you could do a video talking about like the Bulls 3-peat wasn't actually that good, right? And it's like, okay, it's like, well, it was good. Everyone knows it was good. What do you mean it wasn't good? So you're using the inverse normality from the preconceived notions there. And then you're also nostalgia baiting a little bit because any of the old heads are going to watch that because they're nostalgic about it. So you're getting a double whammy right there. So that's that's an example of using like presence of mind ideation and pairing it with another kind of modality of ideation. Next up is social hacking. Social hacking is one of the most. Oh, Bill, can you guys see this, by the way? Yeah, okay, we can't see it. We can't see the presentation. That's good to know. I did not know I was showing it. All right, we're back. Yeah, so next up is presence of mind social hacking. So social hacking is very, very, very normal. Everyone knows about it. Guys that do this the best are going to be Ryan Trahan and Nick Giovanni. They do it in a way that's kind of low key. And what I mean by that is like generally when people social hack, it's always like, I'm not going to say always, but you see the kids channels and it's like, probably like Mr. Beast, XYZ, and it's like really, really annoying. But like, it'll be like, can I turn Ryan Trahan into a master chef? Right? And it's like, okay, Nick Giovanni, massive audience, but also Ryan Trahan. And it's great for audience cross-pollination because what you're doing here is that you're essentially taking the audience from the person that you're collaborating with and applying it to your own video. I call it audience cross-pollination. It's actually incredibly effective and a great way to organically steal audiences and build up your own core following. So I think Nick does it really well. Ryan does it really well as well. But I think Nick is actually like killing it recently. So cooking challenge versus Mr. Beast. Can I turn Ryan Trahan into a chef? All these are outliers. And then this is an example I did for Matthew Beam Gaming, which is I upgraded Kai, Sinets, and iShowSpeed's base where we want their audience to watch it. It makes sense for his style of channel and his style of content. Is this the last one? I actually don't know. Maybe this is the last one? No, it's not. I got one more after this. So this is brand hacking. Brand hacking is essentially social hacking, but with brands. So obviously, like, let's say, like Nike. Nike has like a massive brand presence of mine. Same thing with the Air Jordans, etc. You can make ideas around these specific things in terms of brand hacking. But you can also take it a step further with thumbnails. So I'm using Mr. Beast here because the example I wanted to find doesn't exist. And then last night I watched a video that had the example exactly what I wanted and I lost it. I didn't save it. So that's my bad. But, this is Lamborghini versus world's largest shredder. And this is hydraulic press versus Lamborghini. So first of all, these are massive like data back formats in terms of versus shredder versus like hydraulic press. But the reason we're using Lamborghini here and not anything else is that Lamborghini is the biggest total addressable market for the lowest common denominator. Even though like Ferrari, for example, as a brand is more prestigious and is worth more money, than Lamborghini is more recognizable. And because Lamborghini is more recognizable, we're going to hack that specific brand to use it in the videos. Same thing with Mr. Beast logo. he's using that. It's because he's actually brand hacking himself because that's how big he is. Another great example is if you guys have seen some of the videos, how do you even explain this? Like, videos will use certain color combinations to evoke a certain emotion about a brand. So I'll just use an example. You'll see like sometimes in like, let's say the self-help spaces or like the content spaces, like content addiction spaces. It's like its own thing. It's like, oh, I hate content. They'll use like the Pornhub colors, right? They'll use like that specific hex code yellow and that specific hex code black, and it'll catch your attention, right? That's the whole point of it. And there's like a bunch of other like use cases of this, like for example, like using like the TikTok style effect or using like Shopify if you're in like dropshipping, right? You're just using that brand to elicit a response because it's like the lowest common denominator of understanding. And that's like subconsciously brand hacking. And lastly is trend jacking. So trend jacking is going to be like OG presence of mind ideation. Like OG, yeah, exactly. OG presence of mind ideation. So what this is anything that's trending, whether it be idea, title format, storytelling format, modality of content consumption, all of these is effectively trend jacking. And probably like the best example of all time, by the way, is not this, it's daily vlogging. So everyone like wants to like hail like Casey Neistat as the best daily vlogger, but he's not. The first daily vlogger, to my knowledge, was David Dobrik. Casey did it a few months later and like revolutionized it, and then everyone did daily vlogging. There was no reason in 2016 to be subscribed to 20 daily vloggers. I'm gonna throw it out there. I was, but like there was no reason for me to like sit down and be like, I'm gonna watch all the daily vloggers that live in New York. I just didn't care. But I'd watch all of them anyway. And that was like purely a trend because it was what was working. It was the type of content that was being made, not so much the ideas within the content. Another great example of that is I bought banned Amazon products. I had to break it. I had to break it to everyone here. Listen, if some guy does it and it's an outlier, and two guys do it's an outlier, and three guys do it's an outlier, that's fine. But if 20 different dudes all do the same content and the same title and the same thumbnail effectively, that's no longer outlier ideation. We just jacking a trend. We jacking that trend. And that is properly trend jacking in a way where it's like something is moving in one direction and everyone hops on it within the niche. And it happens to be presence of mind because the idea is not necessarily like a good idea based on outlier. It's just a good idea based on momentum, and people tap into the momentum and just trend jack it. So it's more of like momentum hacking. It's probably a better way to describe it, trend jacking. And that is the end. That is actually the end. I was going to have, another set of slides, but, I was like, that's too many. This is 40. I told Shkefi I would do 40. And that is the end of the presentation. And for the next like 30 minutes to an hour, I will take, any questions. How does momentum work on YouTube? So momentum is like, okay, this is going to be crazy. I think it's purely like, just like vibes based. Like, let's say I get a banger video. Let's say I average, 100,000 views a video, and then I get a banger, and now my average is 120,000 views per video, then I get another banger, and now my average is 150. That's momentum. Like, when you have momentum, you don't want it to stop. It's actually like, there's like some like scientist who like does science stuff, and he was like, it wasn't Einstein, it was Newton. An object in motion wants to stay in motion versus an object at rest wants to stay at rest. Like, once you have that like velocity in terms of like views, and usually I usually call momentum by like higher highs. So when you're looking at your real-time graph, if your real-time graph is higher highs, so the highs from the previous highs are higher, I wish there's a better word I could use there. That is how you kind of like, how I would define momentum. So you want to keep focusing on that. And then that will just increase your average view floor. So either by getting consecutive, either getting consecutive outliers or increases in view ceiling, or a steady increase in view floor is higher highs, or is momentum. Scripted success call when? I have like a dozen calls lined up. And after this, and I post this video, I'm going to have a dozen more. So, maybe end of this month, Harris? Cause I have to do a few more. I'm feeling stuck in my niche on my current channel. I've tried to pivot and it's not working. Have some ideas that are very outside of my niche. Would you recommend trying to pivot my main channel, start a new one? I'm always preferential to starting a new one if you're doing like a very hard pivot. Like if I was a gaming channel, I'll just use this example. I went from like one game to another game. That's fine. But if I went like from gaming to stock trading, you gotta start a new channel. The audience difference is too massive. My channel is getting less views compared to the previous month. What do I do next? The line cannot always go up. So just keep working on it. Like you can't constantly go plus. If you did, like that'd be crazy. I'd hire you. Like even with my clients, like we don't, I like it's incredibly difficult for every month to be higher than last. Like I had a client where we got to 40 million long form views a month, no shorts, and this month he's doing 16 million. Like that's just how it happens. Yeah, we could probably get that settled, Harris. I have to figure out what I'm doing for Siam's community, and then Fed wants me to do a talk as well. Could you explain more about knowing if your audience would be good for an outlier in an adjacent niche? Yeah, so it's all about kind of like I'm not gonna say vibe. I'm trying to think, like I would just say like sauce, but I need like a technical term for you guys. Like the way I would classify it is essentially this: is that if your content is serving a certain purpose, and you look at an outlier, again, like I'll just use the soccer example. If I'm making soccer documentaries and I post a listicle video, it doesn't make sense. Or if I post like a highlights compilation, it doesn't make sense. Because I'm fundamentally always talking about specifically players and their stories. That's what people care about, not what I'm doing right now. I mean, seriously, this is so specific. I don't know. I don't work with. I will say all this advice is going to be based on the fact that I work with guys that are like averaging million views a video. So if you ask me like, hey, my channel's tiny, I'm not going to be able to give the best advice. If I'm starting a new channel because my pivot is too hard, would it be bad? Would it be bad? Yeah, never advertise it. Never advertise it. Your hardcore fans actually aren't there for your personality. They are there for the content you make. There is no world in which they actually care about your personality for the most part. Especially if you're a smaller creator, doesn't make sense. How do you come up with ideas for streaming content, especially daily stream content? So I manage Sabro's YouTube Valorant streamer. Yeah, so you're in a bad spot because you have to do retroactive packaging and ideation. You can never I work with a few streamers, and what we do is that we come up with the ideas beforehand, and then we turn those ideas beforehand into content, and then he shoots it on stream. So stream thinks they're like getting a daily stream, but in reality, we're just using that time to record a video. But if you're just managing a streamer's content, you're cooked. You're massively cooked. Is getting a monetized channel worth investing in? Every channel I've ever started that was successful was not pre-monetized. That's just my own experience though. Even outlier 10x higher, is it smarter to go all in on the same idea? Yes, pretty much. Like if you have like a working format, it makes sense to double down on that working format and try twisting it. So like don't do like the same video over and over and over and over and over again. But if I have a working format, it's like, okay, how can I adapt this to something else? Or how can I make this better? Or how can I do this? Or how can I do that? Right? It's all about adaptation. How can I manipulate my audience to stay? Make good content. I'm making a self-improvement channel. Well, if you're doing education-based content, you're always going to have some type of viewership churn because education-based content has a half-life to like just a viewer. Like if a viewer gets educated and they came for what they want, they're going to leave. There's no way you can like retain a viewer for like longer than 20 videos in some cases. Is there anything specific you notice while watching a video to understand if it's a good or not? Storyline, hook, thumbnail? Yeah, so I only watch videos that I like the thumbnails of. It's pretty easy actually. Like, and I just do this on all of YouTube. Like, I will just go on my homepage. I'll see a video I want to watch. I'll save it later and then I'll watch it and then I'll make a mental note of why I clicked on it. And then after that, I build up a repository of ideas or thumbnails or stories I like, and then I can just use those as examples for clients. So pretty easy. I've not worked with UFC channels before. That's so oddly specific. But hey, Dan, if you want to actually blow up the UFC proper channel, hit my line. Is making longer videos worth it? Almost always. Almost always. The reason why making longer videos worth it, it's purely based on how the algorithm currently works and how session time percentage is attributed to video success. So the way the algorithm works is, I'm not going to say viewer satisfaction. But the longer someone stays on YouTube, the better it is for YouTube. So longer videos inherently have a higher watch time, which is increasing the session time percentage of that viewer for your specific channel. So your content will get recommended to that audience more, and your content will be deemed by YouTube to be good content because it's keeping people on the platform for longer. But it's purely only doing so because the content itself is longer. And it's easier to get a higher AVD on a longer piece of content than it is to optimize a piece of content from a retention perspective to hit the same AVD. How do you find interesting, relevant stories? I rely heavily on outlier videos. Yeah, exclusively outlier ideas. Sometimes, like, again, I'll shout out Leroy. Leroy has a method where he, like, looks at old books and sees how, like, the storytelling structure in old books works. I think it's quite good. I actually quite like, I'm, like, really preferential to, like, 3 or 4 types of storytelling. Like I always like love revenge plots and videos because I think they're like really emotionally like engaging and like just by default like interesting. um, like revenge plots are really good. Zero to hero plots are really good. But yeah, I would look at like outlier videos, and if you don't look at outlier videos, I really recommend. If you're not doing outlier videos, is like look at traditional pieces of media and storytelling and follow that, or either other game stories, well, gaming stories. How do you get returning viewers on your channel if views mostly come from trends? You're screwed. You have a trend-based channel, and you don't have an actual channel. You don't. I always never want to fall in the trap of making trend-based content. You want to make content that people will watch regardless of the trend, which is what I sort of kind of did with Couch Co-op, which I was very happy about. But it's like it's very difficult, very difficult, like incredibly difficult. What's your order of operation diagnosing why working format tanked? By half the average views. Again, all these specific, but here's how I go about doing it. Is the topic relevant? If it's not relevant, then maybe it's not a format issue. If the topic is relevant, then it is a format issue, and I can look at how many times I've personally uploaded that format. And then if I haven't uploaded that format a lot, but my competitors have uploaded that format a lot, then I can basically deduce that it's viewer fatigue. Generally, if you have a working format that sucks, it's usually the way in which that you feel like exhausted that format. And I talked about content. I have a great video about it this week that came out Monday, talking about content rotations and how you need to cycle content in and out of your rotation because viewers will get bored. So there's that. If you have a business education channel, would it be bad to make super broad pieces of content in order to make it depends. That's a really good question. I work with like a really big business channel that I can't talk about. But like 9 of our videos are very specific for our audience that serve as like a direct funnel. And one of them, we just get 1 million views because we need to get 1 million views. That is not my YouTube channel. You linked the wrong one, buddy. It's the Grayson Goodwin YouTube strategy channel. Nothing but the highest level sauce. So yeah. But I wouldn't click on a video of a random channel that I don't know that I just lost that has 20-minute long unless it's a lot of views. Yeah, exactly. That's social proof. You need to have social proof to get those clicks. It lowers the barrier to entry. So the only way to get views is through strict pre-planned ideation. Pretty much, yeah. I've never in my life had a positive experience working with streamers where all the packaging is retroactive. It just doesn't happen. Unless you're like Jinx Zero Speed. Then you can do it because you have a massive audience and it doesn't matter what you post because you have so much momentum. What AI tools you use for ideation, YouTube in general, were most effective? I mean, I exclusively use 1 of 10 for ideation. Outside of that, I have like some private tools I've like developed for myself that are just ChatGPT prompts that work incredibly well, but that's more so like proof of strategy. Like it's just like proof of concept stuff. I don't ever use them for like actual execution. If you make presence in mind type videos, won't your videos start doing bad once the event dies down? Yeah, which is why you don't only make a channel based around presence in mind ideation. You have to have like other things, or you have to have like a more broad view of what you're trying to do and accomplish, and just use it as a tool. Like any type of ideation method is purely a tool for like the end goal, whatever your end goal is. Is it ever a good idea to try to be the first one to make a type of, yeah, 100%, yeah, 100%. If you find an outlier that's banging, like being the first to it, like can be the difference between like 1 million views and 100,000. Almost always. What are your reviews on having your presence across all social media platforms instead of just YouTube? I think it's super smart for a business perspective. I think there's like diminishing returns, like per platform. Like I don't know, like essentially you probably only need like Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram, but arguably you probably don't even need Instagram because all of Instagram is like just paid ads. But that's like neither here nor there. Yeah. Would you ever outsource ideation? I wouldn't because I'm the best in the world at it, so it doesn't make sense. There's no one on earth I can go to and be like, come up with better ideas than me. It just doesn't happen. So that is the issue. I collaborate with ideas. Mr. Beast. Yeah, I think I could come up with better ideas than the current Mr. Beast team. Almost 100%. I'm friends with the current Mr. Beast team too. But they are, like, what they're trying to do and what I would want to do are different things. So there's that. How long have I been doing this? I've been doing YouTube since like 2012. On like a quarterly basis? Yeah, pretty much. I'll work on like a quarterly basis. I've been getting paid to do YouTube stuff since 2016 though. But I've been like making content on YouTube since 2012, maybe 2011. No, it's not that Mr. Beast team's catching strays. It's just that I think I can come up with better ideas than them. But it doesn't make sense if like for example, like the things I want to do, like I know for a fact he can't do. I'll just say there's like certain restrictions in place for the type of videos he can make. And the ideas that I think would get millions of views I can do. As for private clients, I work for private clients on either a monthly basis, quarterly basis, or 6-month basis. What do you think of search-based content in 2025? I love search-based content. Every time I work with a new YouTuber, up until what kind of restrictions, I'm not at liberty to say. I literally can't. I literally cannot tell you. So yeah, like search-based content is great up until like 10,000 subscribers or 25,000 subscribers. And then I like to transition to more into entertainment-based content because you still have like enough of an audience that'll keep returning. And then you can just like plop down like bangers in front of them and they'll watch. You love shorts? I hate shorts. I think shorts is like the worst, like the objectively worst piece of content you can start. Like just make. Unless like you wanted to like get good at like hooks. That's it. Shorts is bad. Never met a single rich shorts YouTuber. I'll put it that way. Unless they sell like a course. If you're new to YT doing long form or Loki shouting in the dark, there's a guy who literally just consumed all of my videos on YouTube and he got a million views his first video on long form. So I'm not too sure about that. Is Seth Fowler's ideation tool going to be good? Listen, I love Seth. He's a great friend of mine. I don't think it'll be better than 1 of 10 review stats. Like, there's no ideation tool that will be better than 1 of 10 review stats. It would be too difficult to make. I have speculation about it, but it's just something that you could just make. So, do you use Netflix? NextLive? No more, because I think Noah stopped updating it. I don't know if that's like public knowledge, but I have not seen him. I know he goes hard in the extension, but like the actual tool I haven't used in a while. Because it doesn't do what I want it to do. I want to be able to click on it and just sort by like recent niches, and it's like I can just scroll down and like this niche started 10 days ago. Here's all the channels in it. That's what I want. Funny enough, I don't want to shout out like a competitor, but there is a competitor who I think has maybe a better niche research tool now. So, what is your opinion on specialized packaging that is unique for certain creators like Spoon Kid, Aiden, and other streamers? I think it's fine. I think specialized packaging is good because it gives you a brand that people can come back to. I always like it. I actually always like it. Yeah, exactly. That's what I do with Couch Co-op. Every Couch Co-op video is the same, like the same packaging. Is there any tool that lets you see the retention graphs of other YouTube videos? No, and I'm not going to leak anything. There is no tool that does it, but there is a way that you can effectively do it, but I'm not leaking. That's private information. Yeah, I already do it. I already do it. Put it that way. Yeah, it would be, but like I'm already doing that. All I can say is I'm already doing that with certain things I have. How come I'm not promoting it more? Because I don't want normies finding my content. I do like the content I make is exclusively for like the only guys I want watching my YouTube content. I want to have 100,000 subscribers and can give me $5,000 to $10,000 a month for my services. Yeah. Do you use 1 of 10 to find outliers in neighboring channels? Almost exclusively. It's like the whole thing I use it for. Yeah, I know a lot because I can't leak a lot. That's the whole point. If I leak it, then you guys get too much sauce. Yeah, this is the channel. When are you going to do your live streams again? Oh, which ones? I had a bunch of live streams back in the day. The Twitter live streams, the live streams on like Twitch, on X. Dude, I don't know. I don't have like, unfortunately, I just don't have time to do it. Like I'm like already struggling to get like 3 pieces of content out a week and balancing all my clients and sales calls. So, reinvesting. If you want a crazy answer, Shoshko, I wouldn't reinvest like 100% of what you make on YouTube for the first like 3 years. Can you record? I'm not recording and posting strategy sessions. Not for paying clients. Because that, like, imagine, like, you're a competitor and you watch one of the strategy sessions, you can quite literally just, like, take all those ideas. It's not worth it. When do you think AI is going to replace ideation? I am hopeful that it doesn't. And even if it does, it doesn't matter if you can't auto-qualify it. So we use some AI tools for ideation, and some of it's really good. But at the end of the day, like, I need to be able to, like, first of all, it's useless if you don't know how to prompt it right. That's number one. And number two is, like, even if you did know how to prompt it right, you have to be able to disqualify the ideas. So it's like, you might be like, this is a banger, but it's like, that doesn't make sense. And then also, lastly, like, I actually find that, I'm not gonna, like, say names, but there's a lot of creators who are currently using AI at a very high level to help out with, a lot of, like, aspects of YouTube. And like they still all like, no, not all, but like a lot of them will still like talk to me or hire me or 1 of 10. Actually 1 of 10 or me through 1 of 10. Just like to have like a human opinion on it. So there's that. The ideation can be done now. I'm sure it can. I mean, I've used some aspects of it. I have tools that I've internally built, and some of them work, some of them don't. But yeah, I can. I can. Oh, probably. I don't know if it'll be good, but like I have prompts that I use that are pretty good. Launching a second channel. Would you use shorts primarily as a marketing tactic to drive views to alert awareness? I don't like shorts to long form because I find that the conversion's really bad. Do you know anything about going live on Twitch? I do. I used to be a full-time streamer back in the day. Yeah, go live every single day from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. East. You get the early morning audience for America, as well as the entire early morning audience for America, and the afternoon audience for EU. Become friends with a lot of the EU guys and have them host you, and then that's the funnel. And then you recycle viewerships. That's exclusively how I was able to get like 70 CCV in like 6 months. Posting no content to any other platform. I just was friends with all the European guys, and they just constantly host me. And then have a friend that is bigger than you that also does Twitch, and then always like let him like go live first, and then you go live second, and then he hosts you. Another easy sauce. That's basically how I got 70 CCV. If I created an AI agent tool that actually really worked, would 1 of 10 buy it from me? No. Dude, we've got like, unironically, one of like the best developers like in the world when it comes to like AI, like former ex, like Microsoft AI guy, or AI architecture at Microsoft. How am I going to get that? Riyadh is like a pro, and then we got other pros. Like you're not building a better tool, bro. Yeah. I've got like 15 more minutes. So you guys better ask some good questions. Better not link me an AI slop channel. I'm roasting the shit out of it. How do you know if an outlier has dried out like the Amazon products? Because I can just look at the recent data and it's like, has anyone done this in the last 6 months? If so, was an outlier. If not, doesn't work. If no one's done it in the last 6 months, I'd be like, maybe I should test it. Because there's like always like kind of like gaps. That's actually like something that I'm either gonna do a talk about it or I'm gonna do like a piece of content on it. But dude, so many YouTubers are like pretty brain dead and they don't like actually. I'm talking like massive YouTubers like are brain dead when it comes to this. I don't know if it's them or their teams or whatever it may be. But the amount of fucking views that you guys leave on the table, by not like testing out winning formats a year later is shocking. Like, you'll have a winning format, and I know because I've done this with clients, where I'll look at all the direct competitors in their niche, and I'll see that all these guys are posting these mega outliers a year ago, and then, like, it gets too competitive, so the views dry out, but they never test it ever again. They're just like, oh, I'm never going to touch that idea. And I'm like, all right, we're just going to do those. Like, no one's done that idea for a year. Boom, 1 million views, 2 million views. And it's just like, you guys just screwed yourselves because you didn't have a content rotation in plan. Getting more specific about my initial question, my first video got 300,000 views in the DIY stage. Ooh, DIY stage. That's so specific. That's so interesting. I'm going to look at it. Wait, hold on. So, I'm trying to pivot to DIY channel like Simon Gerrits. I'll include my music interests. She a bit scattered. There is a guy who you might want to follow, perhaps. He did a video which is like, I built like an office pod in my garage. And it's like, that's the best way I can describe it, like where you should go. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like super niche. I would just like always try to like cross the idea where it's like, how can I make an idea like related to like DIY and music every single time? Like, I built a DJ set in my, well, not DJ set, I built like a full concert stage in my kitchen and hosted like a concert. Or I built a full stage in my kitchen and hosted a concert, stuff like that. TV content is always going to be longer. Think plus 20 minutes. Yeah, Morley Kurt, exactly, that guy. That guy makes bangers. That's a great example of DIY content, like with purpose. Purposeful DIY content. Also, the guy which is like, it's like how things are made, like the guy who's like, I built an office under my staircase. I'm getting a call. Oh, can't take that call right now. If I have an adjacent competitor that has a big audience over, I'm gonna create, a piece of content talking about saturation. So saturation is like Schrodinger's myth on YouTube. It both exists and doesn't exist. It exists in the sense that like, there can objectively be more content being posted than there are people interested in the content that's being posted. Like, that is very real. But there's no saturation in the sense of like, let's say there's 100 people uploading content about the same thing. You can be 101st person uploading content about the same thing, but do it differently and get views. Like, it both exists and doesn't. What are your thoughts on ultra long form niches? I'm hyper bullish on ultra long form. I've been hyper bullish on ultra long form for a very long time. Like, anything that's over 30 minutes, I love that type of content. Zen, you gotta be more specific about that, because that just seems like you're gonna get copyrighted to hell. I never look at AVP, I look at ABD exclusively. ABD is the only metric I really care about outside of like views. And CTR. But like CTR I don't even care about anymore. I just need a good CTR early on. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I only look at CTR compared to like the 30-day average on the channel. Do you think Investor's Kitchen's views prediction is worth using? Okay, I've got a hot take. I love Mono. I love Investor's Kitchen. I've spent lots of money there. I don't think it's worth using. I don't think you will ever accurately be able to predict the number of views. Because the issue with his tool, I'll explain it why I don't like it, is that in theory it's great. But let's say, basically what it can tell you, here's what it can tell you. It can tell you the effective total addressable market for the type of content you post. But then it's you to deliver on that content, and like, it's also, to a degree, on YouTube for serving that content. So I don't think it's very useful. And the reason I bring that up is that I've tested content in there, and it's like been like, here's 500,000, you're gonna get 500,000 and 10 views on this video. And then I upload the video, and it gets 5,000 views. And then, in addition to that, I have friends who've gotten millions of views, and then after they upload it to YouTube, they test it in Wano's tool, and it gets thousands of views. It's like, this doesn't make sense. And it's like, yeah, so Wano's tool is like, great, perhaps. Is it important to have good branding on a channel? I have a lot of friends who have terrible branding on channels that get tons of views. I like it. For me, it's just like a personal thing. I also think, and this is going to be like, I don't know if this is a hot take, I think it's way easier to sell a nicely branded channel, like with like, it's nice and clean. Because you're selling a brand. Yeah, and get sponsored, yeah. Like if you have like an AI profile picture, you're cooked. But like if you have like a theme and it's like consistent, like I think it's easier to sell. Is I have a client named Gregor, and we made a video, and like the whole point of the video is we wanted to basically like do style transference. So we wanted to take the style of this guy named Race 6 Studies and apply it to the gaming niche outside of like the Magic the Gathering cards niche. And like the first comment in the video is like, wow, this video felt exactly like a Race 6 Studies video for gaming. And I'm like, that's perfect. That's all I care about. Literally all I care about. So that was like that was my most fun accomplishment. Like that video like did 60,000 views. It wasn't even crazy, but like I had a goal in it. I achieved the goal like within like the first hour. So that was cool. Yeah. Yeah. So like, that's like my coolest like personal win. Cause at that point I was like, okay, well, I can just do like this YouTube thing forever. Cause like I was able to do that. And that was like pretty hard to do. You are like Ronaldo of fast speaking. Yes. Exactly. What's my biggest YouTube failure? I'll publicly say this. I have a few pretty big failures, like massive failures. I failed one of my favorite clients really big. I tried everything. I really did try fucking literally everything to save his channel. Yeah, we went from getting like 1 million views per video, like down to like maybe 100,000 over the course of like a year. And like that's like due to like niche pressure, but that's also like his competitors were able to like stabilize at like 300,000 views a video and just kept falling. And I kept trying fucking everything to save it, and I couldn't. That's a pretty big failure. And then the other big failure is I was starting a faceless Roblox channel. Like we hired a guy to do it. And then, what ended up happening is that guy ended up leaving the channel because he just wanted to be like, oh, I just want to like make my own content. So he left the channel, I took all of his ideas, and every single one of those ideas was like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of views. But like when we did 2 videos on our channel, and I got like 20 views and 500 views, in that order. And then he left, took all the ideas, and got like 500,000, 1,000,000, 900,000, 800,000. So that was like a pretty big failure there. Just like if I just kept them, like those would have been my views. I would have been making Roblox money. Which would be nice. Do you ever get demonetized? I've never been demonetized or I got demonetized for reused content, but never terminated. I was able to appeal the monetization. How do you pull off replicating the on-camera talent on a big channel? How would you pull off dude, you don't. Anytime that you replace on-air talent, it's GG. Look at Donut Media. Look at not Watchfinder. Maybe it is Watchfinder. Yeah, it is the Watchfinder channel. Like anytime they try to replace their, the issue is like you have key man risk. So like the audience is like so acquainted with that specific person that like they will follow that person rather than the channel it's on. That's like a pretty big issue. Yeah. Yeah. Rooster Teeth, like no one that I know has been able to survive. Yeah, there's, Jordan Matter did that with his daughter. He used to be a photographer. He's like, my daughter's taking over my channel. Yeah, it's like a kid's channel now. But that used to be his channel. Now it's his daughter's channel. Yeah, they make like fucking ton of. Isn't Hermosi gonna try it? I don't think Hermosi's ever gonna try it. Why would he? Do you age channels? No, I mean, I have like a hot take about channels. I think if you have like an OG YouTube account that's been around for a while and you create new channels under that email, it already has a trust factor everyone talks about. Like if I started a brand new channel today under my same email, it's already trusted because that email's fucking ancient. It's had a YouTube channel since 2012 or 2016 in this case, 2012. Maybe say delete the other one. You got to make it transformative. So you got to make the content. Not to say you got to lock in on the content, but you have to like use it in the context of a greater story you're trying to tell and like make it transformative. If you just like clip it to clip it, you're screwed. Always run our clients using UI. A lot of it is helping with storytelling actually and script writing. They're not script writing themselves, but they use it as like let's say an editor. where it's like, here is my script. How would I tell it better? And they usually train it on their past data. It's something that I'm actually looking into for Couch Co-op because we're reviving it soon. I hope. Where we can feed it all the best videos and be like, okay, here's how we go about telling stories. And then, that's how they do it. That is how they do it. So yeah, it's cool. Have you ever faced 0 impressions? Nah. I've already answered that question, Zen. You subscriber to ChatGPT? I actually prefer, so I've tried Subscriber. I love Gil's tool, and Gil's tool's gotten incredibly better. But I have a custom ChatGPT prompt that is just it works so much better. I mean, with my one channel I run, I do have a partner, and it's more so a collaborative effort where I'm I want it to sound like this and get it to sound like that. And then most of my clients just do their own scripts. They don't outsource. I actually hate outsourcing scripts, actually. Because, it's fundamentally not your voice. Not your voice. It's not your experience, and it's not your voice. So, the scriptwriter will never be able to distill down, your experience into a video. That makes sense, because he's not you. And then it's never your exact voice. You just gotta watch it. Don't bookmark my stuff. If you see it, just stop and watch it, because you'll never go back and watch your bookmarks. I have I don't know, 10,000 plus bookmarks, and I've never gone back to check any of them. And all my friends are the same way. That's not the case with YouTube though. If I have something to watch later on YouTube, I will watch it later. Always. Yeah, Jari, there's a whole, I don't know if anyone has a job that does that, but that's people do that all the time. It's genius. The Spanish, and French markets are almost always 6 months behind the US markets. So if you find something banging in US and there's a big enough audience in Spanish or German or French, do it. Doug's pretty creative. I think Funky's editing style, Funky with 2 E's is really good. Small Ants is really good in terms of ideas. That's about it. There's the creativity in gaming content is pretty. Iron Pineapple has some bangers occasionally. That's about it. Do you work with any successful creators that are pure artists and tend to find the? That's a really good question. Alright, how to explain this? I think a lot of artistic YouTubers would do way better if they spent 80% time making art, 20% time studying YouTube, and doing things YouTube natively. It is, I'm not gonna say it's impossible, because Gox does it, and Dodford does it, but it is, the odds are so stacked against you if you're doing purely artistic-based content on YouTube. Purely artistic-based content on YouTube. Because, you're competing with everyone that's hyper-optimized to win. So, you're almost always at a disadvantage. If you just spent a little bit of time trying to win, you would do much better. Where's this question? Would it be smart? Would it be smart to hire a strategist to go over my channel and improve AVD? Or, no, not early on. You should only really be looking to hire a strategist, in my opinion, at 100,000 subscribers, or if you're making $5,000 to $10,000 a month. If you would invest into some stocks from small YouTubers with great potential, who would it be? I have a whole channel dedicated to this in Wi-Fi Money Mafia, which is called the Investments Channel, where if we could invest in YouTubers, who would it be? It's really whoever's across my feed that day that grabs my attention. I don't have any good. There's just so many. There's so many. There's hundreds every new day. Yeah, Uncle Drew, it's actually funny that you mentioned that because you DM me on Twitter. I asked for that back because a lot of people wanted it. You were not the only person. It's one of the changes that they made that I think is actually not a good change. So I told the dev team to add it, and I don't know if they will. We'll have to talk about it, but it is possible that they do add it back. Because I also liked it, because it was very easy for me to be boom, 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 and show people how it works. So I've asked for it back. Ask, just make a tweet adding Richard, and maybe he'll see it. Or adding Riyadh, maybe he'll see it. So I think it'll be good. I've got time for one question. It better be a good question, and then I gotta go. I gotta pack because I'm traveling today. a little. If you want this presentation, I'm gonna steal Shkeffy's video. I'm gonna upload it to my own Twitter because I forgot to press record. Whoops. But if you want the actual presentation, like the notes I have, like the Notion document, I will be giving that away for free on Twitter sometime next week with an audio DM. 2026 YT trends. My first tweet of 2025 talked about the trends for the next few years. It was predictions. It was 40 predictions for YouTube in 2025 and 2026. Best way to validate ideas that are actually unique and out of the box. Really difficult to do so. There's two ways. Way number one is you don't and you pray. I call those ideas like divine inspiration, where it's like there's no outliers. It's just purely vibes. The second idea is based on psychographic viewer profiles and like historical data. So not so much on outlier data, but like let's say you have a brand new idea that's like totally unique. If you can find anything that's not similar in the way it's formatted, but similar in the way that a person may feel watching it, or similar in a way in terms of like the end emotion you're trying to evoke with the video, looking for that is way more valuable, but it's way more difficult to find, right? So like, I think a really great example of like, a video that fucking crushed was a guy who was like, I trained like David Goggins for 100 days, like the Asian Goggins guy that got like 6 million views on video. I think it was like 4.6 million views. Like that video, I'm not gonna say that's been done before, but like it was pretty much not done before. Like that's just like a fire. And then he actually went and did it, which is like fucking insane. That's insane. But yeah, that's like purely like OG. Like you want to see like it's entirely emotionally based. Like you want to make sure the emotional payoff is worth it. Guys, it's been fun. Follow me on Twitter. I hope the presentation was good. I'm doing a new presentation every single week, at a different server about a different thing. Good luck following them all. And I'll be announcing them usually before I go live. It's going to be every Saturday. At least for this month, I'll be doing it. I don't know about next month, because next month, I got shit to do. So, we'll see. Hope you guys enjoy. If you want to hire me, hey, hit my DMs. If you don't want to hire me and you want to come up with good ideas, hit my link in bio for the 1 of 10 subscription. It's like $40 a month, and that's how I come up with ideas that get 250 million views a month. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.